Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat, like I always do. Real treat for you. Brad Blazar. What's cracking, Brad?
I'm glad to be here.
I'm Brad, you're Brad.
I'm Brad, right? Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird, Brad.
We're dropping Brad bombs today.
There you go.
No matter where they come from, they're coming from a Brad.
I love it.
If you guys are not familiar with Mr. Brad Blazar, this dude's like he's been around the block a few times. He's been a sales leader. He's ran companies, all kinds of things. But mostly, notably, at like 23, you started a multi-million-dollar oil company. And learned all kinds of shit growing up and doing that, making all kinds of money, and ended up being in a circle of influential, high-level people, started interviewing them, wrote a book talking about those experiences. What's your book called?
It's called On the Wings of Eagles, Learning to Soar in Life.
On the Wings of Eagles.
Yes, sir, man.
There it is, right there.
Here,
As a matter of fact, if you guys are watching the video version,
right there.
Go get that book.
Good book.
Yeah, so he wrote that book. That opened it up. Everyone started wanting you to talk and consult. Now you're a big-time coach, consultant, guru almost, huh?
I wouldn't call myself a guru, but yeah, coach and a consultant and a speaker.
And you founded the Art of Beliefology.
Founded the Art of Beliefology, and that is trademarked. Yes, sirree. Nobody else can use that phrase.
And basically that's all based on believing that you have the power to change your beliefs and your future.
I believe that.
I believe it.
And we're both like-minded. I love it.
When I read that, I'm like, shit, dude, I believe that. Because, dude, it's the truth.
It is the truth.
And what's funny is everyone possesses the ability to choose, and they don't realize that's how easy it is.
It is. Once you understand that, you can literally transform your life and do great things.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bomb that because, folks, let me just tell you something. He ain't lying. Now, you also started a whole big coaching company called Build a Beast coaching program.
That's correct.
Which I love the name of that. Because you want to just create beasts out of people. Now, whether they're businesses, entrepreneurs, or who, will you work for a company and make their executive sales team a beast?
Absolutely.
It's not just entrepreneurs.
It's
anybody.
Just entrepreneurs,
companies.
It's companies. It's businesses.
Departments.
It's entrepreneurs. It's individuals. I believe everybody possesses the ability to be a beast and transform themselves. Basically, whether it's a level of fitness, whether it's income, whether it's just having a better quality of life.
Yep. So find him at Brad Blazar, Blazar.
You got it.
ER, Blazar.
Blazar.
And Facebook is Learn to Soar Network. And then LinkedIn, obviously, / Brad Blazar. And you'll find his ass. Look him up. How many followers you got on Instagram?
About 11,000, 12,000, something
nice.
like that.
You dropping nuggets all the time?
Oh, every fucking day, you bet.
So you want to subscribe.
Stories and nuggets and just good stuff.
And then you also have a podcast that's pretty popular. What's it called?
We're actually rebranding. You can go to iTunes, Spotify. It's called Learn to Soar. And it'll be called Beast Nation effective this year. We're changing the name.
Beast Nation, folks. So there's how you reach him or follow him or like him if you tend to like any contribution he's about to throw into the universe on this Dropping Bombs episode. Now, have you heard Dropping Bombs before?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Good. So you already know. We're just going to shoot the shit, talk about challenges. Because, man, what an interesting story, dude. At 23, you started an oil company. What were you doing before that?
Basically just going to school, trying to be an architect. That was kind of what I was interested in, and I was good with, drawing and designing shit. And my dad was a real estate executive, and really what I wanted to do was basically become an architect and then go on and become a real estate developer. And I just got sidetracked, man. I was a young kid, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just went to school and studied architecture, and while I was in school, I got sidetracked into the oil and gas business. Took a job working for a guy that had a small company, and I was calling out to investors all across the United States. Got real good at it, and was making probably 80, 90 a year. I was driving a little sports car, And then went to work for another company doing the same thing, got really better at it, and then found out that that guy was a little dishonest, shall we say, and then went off on my own. And at the age of 23, with about $10,000 to my name, not knowing shit about running a company other than you need some business cards and letterhead, I started dialing for dollars. And I dialed for dollars, and boy, things just took off. And we had projects in Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, and things were great. And I was on top of the world, right? And then the shit hit the fan in the late 80s. Tax Reform Act came around, and oil prices plummeted. And so over about a year, I just slowly contracted and closed the doors. I say I did it right, never filed for bankruptcy. That never even entered my mind. I had enough money behind me. But I gave everybody severance, and then I went back to school because I dropped out. And I came back out, and I said to myself, as a kid in my late 20s, 30s, who the hell is going to pay me, $500,000 plus, which is what I'd been accustomed to making more? Nobody. And so I really looked at myself and I said, what in the hell am I really good at that people will pay me a ton of money for? And it was raising money, because that's what I did. I knew how to close. And so I went to work in the financial services industry for real estate entrepreneurs, oil and gas companies, raising capital for them. Basically, I raised a little over $2 billion in my career.
$2 billion.
With a B.
With a B.
Like a bomb.
Dude, over what time frame?
It's about a 20-year time horizon.
That adds up.
Yeah. Average
still,
of
that's
anywhere
impressive.
from 7,500, 150 million a year. Yeah. Adds up.
And I don't know if people understand, that's huge dollars.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I go to my dream board, obviously I'm going to reach $1 billion company, but there's a $1 billion valuation, and then there's $1 billion in revenue.
Correct.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Like I can get to $1 billion in valuation.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure pretty easy next 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's the $1 billion in revenue that's the real freaking challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot of money. Remember, $400 million is a lot.
Yeah.
And that's not even halfway to $1 billion. Like, people underestimate how much $1 billion is. It sounds small.
Well,
That's $1 billion bucks. Who cares? But dude, once you get past $1 million, then you go to 10 million,
mm-hmm.
then you go to 100 million, then you go to $1 billion. See how easy that sounds?
it ain't that easy.
It ain't that easy, dude. There's from 100 billion or 100 million to $1 billion.
Right.
There's 900 more of them.
That's right.
And people say, well, just do what you did to get to the 100 over and over.
Yeah.
No, it
It
doesn't
ain't that
always
easy.
work that way. Yeah. So you did well. So you said you got good at the first job,
Mm-hmm.
and then better at the second job, but the guy got shut down because he was unscrupulous.
Correct.
Why do you think you got better? Because he was unscrupulous and he touched all the shady shit?
No, I just think that I really kind of, I use this expression. I became a student of the business. I started reading. I started listening. I started, really absorbing. And I said to myself, if I'm making this kind of money, working an average of 9 to 12 hours a day, because I was, basically still in school, coming in after class and calling out to California and the West Coast because I'm in Texas and there's a 2-hour time advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I wonder what I could do if I did this full time. And so I started really just honing my skills and getting better and understanding how to handle objections and realize that, a lot of that shit's just bullshit. It's a smokescreen, right? It's hesitation, whatever you want to call it. But got real good basically at talking to people about investing in oil and natural gas and said, man, if you don't do it, it's going to go to Uncle Sam. This is one of the best tax shelters out there. So either write a check to the government or send it to me. Maybe I'll send it back to you. And that's kind of how we grew, and we grew quickly. I had at the time probably 35 employees at our peak. And, of course, that's a pretty decent sized company when you're raising a few million a month, when you get projects in multiple states.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you made a nice commission off that, I imagine.
Yeah, commission, of course, really it was more the royalties on the oil because we were the general partner, so we got back end carried interest. And that's really what I call the mailbox money, baby. I love that mailbox money.
Did you ever find any oil?
Oh, yeah.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part. Yeah, no, we found lots of oil. We sold it all to Coke Industries, big refinery.
Oh, Charles Coke.
Yep, and, did great. Our investors did well. But it was a different time. Let's face it, OPEC was in much more control back in those days. There were many more tax incentives for investors and stuff like that. And it's a great business. I still love it to this day. But, looking back, you say to yourself, well, my God, if I'd raised all that money and maybe hadn't invested it in oil, maybe I just went out and bought multifamily or put it in real estate, could my life have been any different? Hell, I don't know. We all know real estate's cyclical too, right, baby? I mean, it all goes up, all comes down. It don't go up forever. But it was a great learning experience because I realized how to build businesses. And I think as an entrepreneur, you build self-confidence. You get to a point, if you get knocked down, where you're like, holy shit, if I look back, look at what I did, man. I got the skills, I got the know-how to build multi-million-dollar businesses. So let me find another industry and just go out and do it again.
Yeah, replicate.
It's basically just confidence. Yeah.
It is. A lot of it is confidence, as a foundational block. The rest of it, believe it or not, I believe is what you're saying with the art of beliefology.
Beliefology.
Yeah, you have to believe it. You have to be able to. People that say, "I'll see it when I believe it," instead of I'll believe it and then I'll see it.
You got it. It's Zig Ziglar, man. It's whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it will achieve.
Yeah, but that's Napoleon Hill.
But Napoleon Hill. There you go.
That's right. Zig Ziglar said, "The best way to get what you want is to help others get what they want."
That's it.
Then he would also say, "I like to read the Bible in the newspaper so I know what both sides are up to." Yeah. Old Zig Ziglar. He was
both them good guys.
He was a goodie, wasn't he?
Oh, he was one of the best of the best.
So now, how do you spend your day? Walk me through your normal week.
A lot of it really is speaking. I'm speaking a lot more this year. I'll be out in Boston next week speaking at 2 events. A lot of it is just creating content. Obviously as a coach and as a speaker, you got to become a marketing machine. I've come to realize that now. You've got to brand yourself. You basically become the brand. It's what is your message? What are you communicating on a daily basis? And so a lot of it is that. And then a good part of it, man, is just reaching out to people that have connected with me, trying to put together events, figuring out how we can strategize, how we can collaborate, how I can work with other coaches. I'm talking to podcasters, getting on their podcasts and interviewing guys to get on my podcast. And so, my average week really is just, either appearing on a podcast or two, figuring out who's going to be on my podcast schedule, because typically we book 3-4 months out, speaking and coordinating basically my travel, and then basically just getting on the phone and talking to people that have expressed interest in my coaching services or my consulting services, whether it's coming in and helping them raise capital, or whether it's coming into their business, or if they're just an individual, how can I coach you to a greater level of success and make you realize that you have self-doubt and limiting fears that are holding you back from going on to greatness in your life. You want to start a business? Why the hell haven't you started a business?
Good question.
What do you think? My wife doesn't want me to, or I don't have the money, or I don't know any. I'm like, you think a fucking 23-year-old kid without a college degree knows how to build a multi-million-dollar oil company? No. But see, my philosophy is ready, fire, aim. Did you hear that? Ready, fire, aim. Too many people spend too much time aiming and they never get to pull the damn trigger. Part of the journey of being an entrepreneur is figuring it out along the way.
Yeah.
And that's just what you do, right? I mean, you figure shit out along the way. You put together a team of people. And so I was, smart enough as a kid to realize that there are CPAs and there are attorneys out there that know what I don't know. And by turning to them, basically they coached me and they said, here's what you need to do to be successful. Here's what you need to do to put together a memorandum to go out and raise capital. Here's what you need to do to form a limited partnership. Here's what you need to do to get the securities license so you're not breaking any of the securities laws and all of that stuff. And as an entrepreneur, you just kind of figure it out and, you look back and you go, holy crap, I built a multi-million-dollar oil company. And so I tell people, man, if you've got these things that you want to do, the problem you have more than likely is you're not fearing the failure, you're fearing the judgment of other people. I think people go through life, man, trying to fucking please other people. And the thing that people have to realize is seek a life of happiness, man. Don't fucking try to make everybody else around you happy because you're miserable, right? Live life for yourself. And that's the big message right there for anybody listening, man, is don't don't understand that you're afraid of failure. I don't believe people are scared of failure because, let's face it, people fucking get in shark cages and swim with great white sharks. They bungee jump. They got thrill seekers galore. What you're really fearful of is the judgment of other people. And you got to get to a point in your life where you're like, I don't give a shit what other people think. I'm Brad Blazar. I'm Brad Lee, and I'm going to do what I want to do. What makes me happy?
Well, that's the harder part, figuring out what makes you happy.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like if I was going to ever hire a coach, I mean, I hire a coach for a bunch of things, but I mean, in this particular case, the hardest part for me is figuring out what the fuck do I want?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
what do I want? Like, why do I live in Vegas? Why do I have the friends that I have and go the places that I go? Like, is that what I want? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What is there more? Like, almost like I wish someone could just kind of show me the entire menu and allow me to choose. But sometimes we don't think the possibilities are there,
Mm-hmm.
which goes back to what I'm saying. If you believe, like again, if I believed something, I've just seen that manifest into reality.
Absolutely.
But if on the opposite, if you don't believe it, I've never seen somebody wake up one day and be like, man, I never thought I could be here. Like everybody that I've ever talked to that's successful. Mm-hmm. So tell me how this happened. They always saw what it is that they wanted. No one just accidentally said, well, I woke up one day and I just kept screwing up. And the next thing you know, I had a bunch of money in the bank. And like, there's always some sort of intentional effort or consistency or belief or faith or leap of faith that they took. Somebody, and including me.
Mm-hmm.
So when people always say, how did it all begin for you? Well, similar to what your story was in the green room, I just decided to help someone make more money because I liked the person, saw that what happened when I showed him how to make way more money than he's ever made with the easiest things, sales and closing. And I thought, man, I want to do this. I want to do this more often. I want to help more people.
Yeah.
And then you look back and all the successful people say, hey, help other people. I never got that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I need to help myself.
Sure.
That's when Zig says the best way to get what you want is to help others get what they want, because then you get what you want. I never got that until I was about 30. Mm-hmm. And then sure as shit, looking back, when everything changed for me is when I started worrying about helping other people as opposed to helping myself.
That's it.
You see the same thing?
Absolutely. That's so true.
So if somebody's out there right now, they don't have the money to hire you, what give them some free shit? Say, man, let me give you a little taste of what you might be getting. Because I always think to myself, what guests do I put on dropping bombs? Well, guests that have been there, done that, either good or bad. Again, I've had broke some bitches on here, and I'm talking to them about what'd you do, so people hear what not to do. And then I've had rich people on here, and what'd you do, so people hear what to do.
Sure.
So I get all kinds, but the goal is listeners figure out how to get past a certain challenge or objection. So what do you think your strong suit is if someone were to come up to you, they're starting a business or thinking about it, but they haven't made the jump and they're afraid for some reason? A lot of people I notice are afraid.
Well, I think what you need to do is you need to get your head straight as an entrepreneur. You've got to figure out what is it you really want to do with this business, or what is it you really want to do with your life. And I think the problem is so many people don't know. They're like a damn cork in the ocean, right? They're just bobbing around. I mean, people go to work every day. They're on that treadmill. They look forward to the weekend because it's a celebration. I don't have to go to work. Why? Because I hate my job. I hate my boss. And so I think the biggest thing is, number one, is you got to really understand that being an entrepreneur and being successful is a damn lonely journey, right? When I wrote my book and that book came out, I thought the first group of people going to go out and buy that book, who do you think? My mom, my siblings, my aunts and uncles. Let me tell you, that shit didn't happen. Why? Well, number one is they never saw me as an author and as a coach and as a speaker. And I'm like, holy shit, man, it's a lonely journey. But then I started listening to people that were where I wanted to be. And they said, man, you can't be around that negativity. You have to disassociate yourself with those naysayers. You see yourself where you want to be. Just don't give up. And I haven't given up. My wife asked me after I sunk, I don't know, $20,000 or $30,000 into this business, hiring coaches and flying around. She's like, when is this going to stop? I said, it ain't ever going to stop. I'll put another $100,000 into this thing because this is what I want to do. This is my calling. There's conviction behind this. And of course now it's working, and I got coaching clients and I'm speaking all over, and I'm on podcasts, and I got my podcast. But I think that as an entrepreneur, if you're not truly committed, where you're going to stick it out, don't become an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur ain't for you, because there's a big difference. Mark Cuban says there are entrepreneurs and there are entrepreneurs.
What's
right?
the difference, does he say?
Well, the difference is there's three types of people, right? There's dreamers, there's blamers, and then there's game changers. Blamers blame everybody else on their lack of success. Oh, my boss didn't give me the damn tools I needed, or I wasn't trained right. And then there are the dreamers. They're dreaming about doing all kinds of great shit, but they never do it. And then there are the game changers, like you and me, man. They just pull the trigger, they figure it out, and they jump. They take that leap of faith, and they never turn back. And I think that's the big difference between people. Is, and that's what Cuban says, man, is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, be a damn entrepreneur, but don't be a wantrepreneur. Don't want to do something and then don't ever do it. And a lot of my life is really driven by the fact, Brad, that I don't want to look back and have regrets in my life and say, man, I shoulda, coulda, right? What would have my life been like if I had did this differently, or if I had started that business that I always wanted to start? Would I be rich? Would I be famous? Who knows? But if I don't do it, I'll never know. See, I think the difference between entrepreneurs is they look at failure differently than people that are not entrepreneurs. Failure doesn't scare me. Why? Because I learned through the process of failure what don't work. And as a smart dude, I figure shit out. Well, that didn't work. I got to go try this. So many people are just scared of failure, and I think a lot of it is also they get to a point in life where they're unwilling to invest in themselves. They're unwilling to invest in the business because they're scared of losing that financial investment.
What do we call that?
Well, I call it basically, you got to reinvest in yourself. You got to reinvest in your business. You got to understand that in order to grow, you got to scale. You got to keep putting money back in. You don't know whether you're going to get a return on investment. But you're going to get to a point where you're sitting on a nice little, a cushion of cash, right? You got a little cash in the bank and you're feeling good. Oh, man, I got 100 G's in the bank. Great. How are you going to scale and get to 3 million next year? How are you going to grow your business to 5? You need 4 more salespeople. Oh, I don't want to hire 4 more, man. Well, you're never going to get where you want to go if you don't do that. And so I think that you just have to understand that you always have to be putting yourself out there. You always have to be taking risk, I mean, I was actually listening to Albert Preciado the other day, and he said, man, I'm so humble and I'm so content where I am, but I'm always hungry. I always want more. And I think that, that's kind of where a lot of entrepreneurs are, is they're always pushing. They're always saying to themselves, I want to be a better version of myself next year than I am today. Matt McConaughey, if you ever saw his Academy Award presentation, gave thanks to 3 people. He thanked God. He thanked Camellia and his family, and then he looked out in the audience. He said, I bet you guys can't guess who I'm thanking next. And he looked at Brad Pitt. It ain't you. Looked over at Jack Nicholson. It ain't you. He said, the next person I want to thank is myself. Because every day as an actor, I'm asking myself, how can I be a better version of me? And that really resonated. And that's kind of what I've adopted in my life. It's kind of like I was talking to the guy out here, the golfer, and the tennis guy that is doing the podcast for Lightspeed. He said, as an athlete, every day I try to go farther, faster, right? If I did a mile today, I'm going to do a mile in a 10th tomorrow. And that's how these guys, because I've got buddies of mine that are these ultra marathoners. I'm like, dude, how do you run 50 miles? I mean, I've ran a marathon, but 100 miles? He's like, man, you just, every day, man, a little bit more. You just keep going.
So if someone's out there afraid to jump, give me 3 things that they need to do tactically that they could start today and get over that fear.
Well, number 1 is you got to jump. Okay, you just got to do it. I mean, you got to realize that a lot of the beliefs you have are false beliefs. They're limiting beliefs. Okay, habits basically dictate your life. Habits basically have 3 things. There's a cue, there's a response, and there's a reward. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say your cell phone rings. That's the cue. The response is you answer your damn phone. And the reward is either there's good news or there's bad news. Let's say that over the course of a week, man, you got the IRS calling you. You got bill collectors calling you. You get someone in the family that calls you because there's been a death. You're going to create the belief every time the damn phone rings, man, there's bad news. I ain't going to answer my phone. Or conversely, of course, the reward could be good news. You got buddies wanting to ask you out. Hey, man, I just got tickets, man, to the big game in town, or there's a birth, or there's some great news. And so you create basically these habits that get reinforced. It's the muscle memory. And so I tell people, you've got to understand, man, a lot of these beliefs you have up in your head, they're not real. They've been put there by, in many cases, your parents who were trying to protect you when you were a kid. They said, don't do that. Don't do this. But in reality, those limiting beliefs are what are holding you back from the greatness that really you're capable of. So just take the leap of faith. Just understand that what you've got to do is you've got to see yourself differently. The two strongest words in the English language are actually two of the smallest, and they are the words I am, right? And so I'm a firm believer in positive affirmations. When you wake up in the morning and you're brushing your teeth or whatever and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you should say I am and follow those two small words up with something, because those words that follow I am will define you. And so I'll give you an example. I've got a client that was overweight. He hired me and he said, I want you to basically be my fitness coach. Can you help me lose weight? I'm like, sure. I said, have you ever ran? No. I said, can you walk? Yeah. I said, great. Tomorrow morning, I want you to wake up an hour earlier and go for a 30-minute walk, briskly. Work up a little sweat. But if you can walk, man, just go for a 30-minute walk. Do that for 3 days. On the fourth day, I want you to look at the telephone or the light poles, and I want you to walk from one pole to the next and then jog from that pole to the next and then walk. Do that for 3 days. Well, here 2 months later, now the guy's jogging 2 or 3 miles. And finally, about 3 weeks ago, he called me. He said, for the first time in about 15 years, when I looked at myself in the mirror, what was looking back at me was not the obese guy I was, it was an athlete. And I said, bingo. Now that you see yourself as an athlete, you have to ask yourself, what do fucking athletes do, dude? They work out. They go to the gym. They eat healthy. I said, I have no doubt you'll lose the other 20 pounds, because now what's happened is you've created a new belief system for yourself, and you see yourself differently.
That makes all the difference.
When I was in business and had my oil company, I was trying to hire a sales guy. I had an ad in the paper. This is before LinkedIn and before the internet. You had to put ads in papers back then. I had a guy call, and so we got his resume, and I said to my receptionist, call the guy, put an appointment on my calendar. She did. And so he showed up for his interview, and now I'm in a big bank building where there's suits and big prestigious law firms and accounting firms and prudential-based securities, and this kid shows up in jeans with holes in the knees, a flannel shirt, big windswept mustache, calloused hands, a mullet haircut. Now, for most people, you think the interview would have ended right there, right? But I was a nice guy. I said, come on into my office back here, because I remember one thing my granddad taught me. He said, people will forget your name. They'll forget what you do, but they will never forget the way you make them feel. And so I said, come on back here. Got him a cup of coffee. We shot the shit like you and I did in the green room. And I finally just said, Jack, why do you want to come work for me? He said, because I want to give my wife and my daughter everything we don't have that they deserve. And I said to myself, I didn't say it to him, now there is a guy that's got desire. I know how to push his buttons, because when he ain't working hard and he's slacking off, all I got to say is, Jack, how you going to go home tonight and tell your wife she's going to get everything she deserves when I only see you putting in 60, 70%? That's all I had to say to the guy, man. He'd kick it back into high gear. That year, he made almost $250,000. Why? Because I changed his beliefs. I trained him up. And one day when I was walking down the hall of my office, there was the guy, man, dressed like J.R. Ewing, man, big old nice Stetson hat, fancy stainless and gold buckle on his belt, nice pair of ostrich cowboy boots. And when he hung up the phone and I kind of smiled, I said, man, look at you. His response back was exactly what we had said earlier. Whatever my mind can conceive and believe, it would achieve. And every time I see myself behind this desk, I see myself as J.R. Ewing. So a lot of it is just, it's what's up here in your head. I tell people running a marathon ain't hard, because I've done it multiple times. It's self-talk. the hardest muscle to convince to do it is the one up here between your fucking ears.
Mm.
You ask anybody that's an Ironman or a half Ironman or a triathlete that goes and does that kind of stuff, they'll tell you, yeah, you got to train up for it. It's a lot of endurance, but it's self-talk. You think when I'm 15, 20 miles into a race, I'm not thinking I could be home on a couch eating a damn Big Mac or a cheeseburger or drinking my favorite tequila? Of course I am. I got better shit to do than be out here sweating my ass off. It's the self-talk. It's what Goggins will tell you, man.
What is your favorite tequila?
Oh, man, I got a whole bunch of good tequilas. I'm really more of a reposado. I mean, I drink, what's the one that Clooney has out there? Tres Amigos. I like Tres Amigos. I'll drink Herradura, Anejo. Tequila is kind of what I call my skinny Rita, man. I'll get some club soda and some tequila, and a couple squeezes of lime and a good cigar, man. I'm a happy camper. I'll drink 3 or 4 of those, man. I'm a tequila guy.
Yeah,
I actually learned that from Rock. Dwayne Johnson, man, loves tequila. You know why? No calories, man. You could drink 4 or 5 of those things, man. You feel good, and you don't put on the calories.
That's why I do vodka.
I like vodka, yeah.
Yeah, vodka and tequila.
That's it, man.
Either one of them. What's the book about? On the Wings of Eagles.
Yeah, so really how this whole thing came about is, if you had told me 3 years ago you'd be an author and you'd be a podcaster and you'd be speaking, I would have laughed. How the book kind of came about is over my career in financial services, working with some of these big companies, they bring in keynotes, or I've actually traveled, I've interacted, I've met with people in their offices like Fran Tarkenton, is I've met a lot of very influential, successful people. People like Kevin O'Leary, Magic Johnson, Fran Tarkenton, Joe Namath, Rudy Rudiger, George W. Bush, Commander-in-Chief Oliver North. And I've come to realize, man, these people have different habits. They have different beliefs than most everybody else. And so one day I was sitting there in my office and looking at the stack of notes, and I said to myself, because I just read Jack Welch's book. And Jack Welch, of course, GE says there are millions of people all over the world just raising their hands asking for help. Help me, help me. Become more successful, make more money. And the light bulb went off, and I said to myself, man, there's millions of people that would like to meet just half of the group I've already met. So I created the outline, and just over the course of months, man, banging it out on the computer and going back and editing, came up with the book. Then had to figure out, well, what's the name of the book? And I look at all of those great thought leaders as the eagles, because they're soaring. You never see a freaking flock of eagles, right? You see chicken flocks and turkeys, but eagles are raptors. They fly one at a time. And I said to myself, that's the title, On the Wings of Eagles, Learning to Soar in Life. You're going to learn from all of these people that Brad Blazar has interacted with. And so really what the book is, it's a compilation of the messages and stories from all of these people, man. I got Joe Namath in there. I got Kevin O'Leary in there. I got Rudy Rudiger in there. And so that was really kind of how this first book came into being. And I created this concept called the Art of Beliefology, and I trademarked that. And I didn't realize how smart I was on trademarking that, because now I can license that to other coaches and say, hey, if you'd like to have the Art of Beliefology as a way to market yourself in your little protected community here, you'll come down to Texas and pay me a nice little sum of money, and we'll get you certified as a Beliefology coach and trainer. But people now are saying, okay, I buy into that concept of I got to change my mind and I got to change my beliefs, but how do I do that? So you got to buy the second book. It's coming out in 2020. And so the second book, which is going through the final revisions and edit, is called A Blueprint for Your Better Self. And it really outlines the things that somebody needs to do to transform and understand how to actually change these habits and beliefs to actually have that transformation in their life and go on to a better career or more money or greater success or greater relationships.
So if you could go back, talk to your 23-year-old self again,
yeah,
what would you tell him?
That's really a tough question. Number one, of course, is I got married probably too young. I was married, had the company, and of course, my first wife left me because she thought we were headed to bankruptcy, and she remarried, and she's gone on to do her great things. I've kind of followed her. She's a phenomenal jewelry manufacturer and is in Neiman's and all the great stores. Looking back is,
Does that bum you out?
No, but looking back as a 23-year-old kid, I guess really what I would tell myself is learn and never stop learning. I think that's the one thing that, number one, made me successful then. Because let's face it, man, at 23, you don't know what you're doing, man. You're still partying. You're still having a good time. And when my friends were out, they're saying, hey, man, come on, let's go. We're going out clubbing. Man, I got to sit down and figure out how the hell I'm making payroll in 2 days, man. I mean, I got other shit going on in my life, I mean, I got to figure out, what I'm going to be doing over here on this well that I'm drilling on and all this other stuff. But I think a lot of it really is, if I could tell any kid, because I believe our education system is flawed and fucked up.
Sure.
And I know you do as well. I mean,
Sure.
I've listened to your podcast. We don't teach people the skills they need for success. I would tell a young kid coming out of school, great, if you went to college, great, but really start studying successful people. Find people that are at where you want to be. Read, listen to podcasts, get around them, network. The great thing about LinkedIn today, folks, is you're just 2 or 3 clicks away, basically, from anybody you want to meet.
You ain't lying about that.
I mean, it's so easy nowadays, much easier than it ever was, And so, just reach out to people, say, man, I'd love to connect with you. And then if they accept your connection, say, great, man, I'd like to figure out a way that I can just pick your brain. I'm in the same industry, or I'm thinking about doing this. I mean, I get so many requests every day that I get to filter them out now. But I think that that's the greatest thing that I would tell a 20-year-old kid, a 25-year-old kid is, man, figure out, number one, what you want to do. Figure out how you're going to do it. And then surround yourself kind of with a team of people that can help you. I'm actually this year creating my own mastermind group. And so I'm inviting people into that group very selectively, saying, hey, if you want to be part of an elite mastermind and have the ability to connect and network with other great thought leaders to help you get where you want to be, here's what we're doing. And overwhelmingly, everybody I've talked to said, hell yeah, definitely. I want to get connected to the people you know. And so we might create multiple mastermind groups, because you can't have more than 8 to 10 people in a group. It just doesn't work. But that's really what I would tell myself is, man, just figure out what you want to do, pursue it with passion, and don't try to go out and please other people, man. Live a life of happiness. Figure out what you want to do, and then go do it. If you want to go out and play guitar and have sand between your toes on the beach every day and live someplace like Puerto Rico or the Bahamas, that makes you happy, go do it, man.
Well, that sounds easy, but you got to have some money.
Yeah, you got to have some money, but let's face it, there's a lot of people that are so much happier out there with no money because they're doing what they want to do. I know a lot of people have a shitload of money that hate their life, right? Money doesn't buy happiness, right? That's what everybody thinks. Let me tell you what buys happiness. Skills buys happiness, because if you have skills, you're marketable. If you're a closer, you can make money, right? I think skills buys freedom, because if you have a skill, you can market that skill, you can make the money. Now, obviously, money does buy freedom to some degree, but I know a lot of people with a lot of money, and they lead miserable lives. And
well,
so,
they wouldn't be any better if they didn't have it.
well, I mean, that's true, but I mean, at the same time,
Yeah,
would they be happy doing something else? I mean, I always ask people that have a job, and I say, well, you've been thinking about starting a business for the last 5 years. Why? Because I don't like my job. I don't like waking up every day. I don't like reporting to a manager or a boss or XYZ. And I'm like, well, then start the damn company. Live the life that in your mind you're seeing that you ain't living yet. Because if that's going to make you happier, and that's going to give you more freedom, or that's going to give you what I call, more conviction, more desire, then go do that. Don't try to make mom and dad happy. Don't try to make your friends happy. I tell people, you got to realize, man, that you are your own person. You are the person responsible for your destiny. You are the person that's going to live in your shoes every day. And so you got to find out what makes you happy, and then just go pursue that passion and surround yourself with people that will help you get there.
So going back, just because, again, we talk about a lot, you'd tell your 23-year-old self to learn more.
Learn more, absolutely.
Number two,
I'd say don't ever give up if you start something, unless there are things beyond your control. And literally, when I made the decision to dissolve my oil company, back in the late 80s, early 90s, that was probably one of the most challenging, difficult decisions I ever have to make.
you wish you didn't?
Well, no, because I didn't want to run the risk, number one, of going bankrupt. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, I was putting a lot of money back in the business, because at the time oil prices went from $36 to $9 a barrel, and it cost us about $11 to produce a barrel of oil back in those days. So if you were only getting $9 for the commodity and it costs you $11 to produce, you realize very quickly that's a poor business model. And so,
but you said here, don't ever stop.
well, I mean, would I have gone and found a partner? Would I have gone and borrowed? Would I have gone in debt? I'd say that I stopped the oil and gas business, but I didn't stop closing and raising money. I just found and I pivoted. As you say, I pivoted, right?
Yeah,
because
you make adjustments.
You've had a couple of pivots with Lightspeed.
Sure, I have. And I always tell people, too, you should stop shit sometimes.
Absolutely.
Like everybody says, don't ever stop, because that's kind of the...
Well, you pivot.
What they mean is, keep going because it's possible. Yeah. But when they say, don't ever stop, don't give up, like you gave up. And it worked out for you. I gave up, and it worked out for me because, again, I gave up selling cars.
Well, you gave up something that wouldn't work.
I wanted to run and own a dealership one day. I gave up.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm glad I didn't. So again, there's a lot of times where you should give up, but not give up on yourself and not give up on your dreams.
That's the golden nugget.
But ultimately, learn. And then just keep going.
Just keep going, man. Go long in one direction. And sometimes you have to pivot. You have to readjust. Absolutely. I mean, let's face it. Life ain't easy, right? Life throws curves, man. Life drops bombs. Life ain't easy. But you always have to adapt. You always have to have basically a belief in yourself. You have to realize that every time you fall, man, you got to get back up. You got to brush yourself off, and you got to keep on going.
You ain't lying.
You just got to keep on going.
So, if someone wants the book, Amazon, where do they find it?
Amazon, man. Yeah, just go to Amazon and, just basically put in there On the Wings of Eagles. Or you can just basically put in there my name, Brad Blazar, Blazar. I think it's like $19. It's a Kindle ebook. I'm going to be coming out with an audio book later this year. We're coming out with audio. And so it's on Amazon.
What if they want to just hire you for coaching?
They can go to the website. We got a whole website there. We got the podcast
What's the web
on the
cost?
website. Website just bradblazar.com, www.bradblazar.com. You can take a look on the very bottom there. You can follow me. We got the Instagram feed on the bottom of the homepage. I got a bunch of cool swag, man. I got Build a Beast workout gear. I got hoodies. I got hats. I got yoga mats for the chicks. I got all kinds of cool Build a Beast gear. So if you guys want to be beasts and you need a little reminder and a little dosage every day, go buy my merch, man. It's some cool stuff.
Folks, you heard him. Sitting here live in Las Vegas, Dropping Bomb Studios, Brad Blazar. And, dude, I definitely appreciate you swinging through here.
No, absolutely. It's a pleasure.
I'm glad I got to meet you. I want to talk a little bit more off microphone. I need some swag.
You need some swag?
You might have the hookups.
I'll hook you up, baby.
Folks, go out and rate, share this podcast, and do me a favor. Stay real.